welcome to the show. I am Jean-Paul Turaishimie, your host of Igihe Niki. It is Friday, December 1st, 2017 at 8 p.m. in Washington and 2 a.m. in Netherlands. In this special program, we are joined from Netherlands by Attorney Caroline Buisman, the lawyer of Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza. Last Friday, the African Court on Human and People's Rights ruled in favor of Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza, a Rwandan opposition leader who is languishing in jail after being sentenced for 15 years, we'll check my record, by the Rwandan highest court. Among the charges that Ingabire was convicted of were that she minimized the Rwandan genocide of 1994, where hundreds of thousands of Tutsis and some Hutu were killed. The accusations the accusation was triggered by her statement at the Gisozi Memorial Site, where she recognized that Tutsis were dead and are remembered, but Hutus who died during the same period of time are not remembered or recognized. Caroline Buisman took the case to the African Court on Human and People's Rights that sits in Arusha, Tanzania, and won. We will ask her what it means for her and Ingabire and actually to others Rwandan in similar position. It should be noted that Caroline Buisman was part of the legal team that defended successfully General Kabirigi, who was acquitted of crimes of genocide against Tutsis. Let me try to see if we have Tony Caroline online. Caroline, if you can hear me, welcome to this program and congratulations for this historic victory of Ingabire Victoire Umuhoza's case against the government of Rwanda.
Thank you very
Caroline,
much.
can you hear me?
And good evening, everyone.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Thank you very much. I'm very
You're
excited
welcome.
to be here. Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Yes, I will start with just a simple question. I know that it is 2 a.m. where you are right now. Let's get into it right now. I'll start with a question about jurisdiction. So Rwanda is among African countries that ratified Article 1 of the Protocol to the African Charter on Human and People's Rights, on the establishment of of African Court and on Human People's Rights. We learned that later Rwanda withdrew from its participation in the court. So what, if any, the power this court, the African Court on Human and People's Rights, has on, the power that it has or its decision has on Rwanda?
Well, the decision is binding. It's true that Rwanda has withdrawn from the procedure, and this was just a few days before we're going to plead the case in Arusha. They said it was complete coincidence. It was nothing to do with the case of Victoire Ingabire. But they were concerned that particularly others they were referring to who could either have been involved in genocide or denying genocide could have taken this place as a forum against Rwanda, and this was not what it intended to be. So they withdrew, and then there's been like a year delay where there's been pleading as to whether they could do so in pending cases, and the court said no. And there was a year during which other Rwandans could still file against the government of Rwanda. But at this moment, it is true that no one can file complaint against Rwanda before the African Court anymore. But Victoire Ingabire did, and this judgment is binding. What Rwanda is going to do about it is another matter, but it is a binding decision. Yeah.
Yes. It was Rwanda present during the reading of the decision?
No.
Do you know?
They were not present during any part of the procedure.
Okay.
unfortunately.
But okay. So the court found several violations of your client Ingabire rights, including free speech.
Yes.
We know that the free speech
Yes.
part of the case was triggered by, as I just said a few minutes ago, side. So she's in jail
Yes.
for this. So is he? We'll go to the actual statement later in this program. But can she take this decision and challenge the government of Rwanda in the court in Rwanda? Because I think maybe you'll tell us what you're going to do next. But is this something that she can challenge in Rwanda?
Well, we as her lawyers would certainly try to use this judgment to lobby in Rwanda. There is the court held that Rwanda has to take all necessary measures to rectify the situation where they've done harm, where they violated her rights, and now they have 6 months to respond adequately to this judgment. They did not order her, they did not be asked for her immediate release. They didn't go as far as that. But they did say in their judgment that, of course, Rwanda could consider releasing her as part of the appropriate measure that they should take in response. So it's more a question of going to the government, I believe, at this stage, and asking them what do they intend to do about this judgment.
But if they don't,
because
if Rwanda
you look,
government doesn't, yes, go ahead, please.
No, if you look at the facts, they held there's violation of freedom of expression and freedom to express opinions within the law, and they also found that there were irregularities during the procedure and found that her right to a defense had been violated. Well, if you look at the charges against her, that she was found guilty. 2 of them, one of them was minimizing the genocide. The other one was spreading rumors against the government. Both of them have been held to be in violation of freedom of expression laws. And how can Rwanda respond appropriatly to that, other than release her, at least for those charges? At least I cannot see how, if you take this to the next step, and we find that at least these charges, she's been wrongly convicted for those, how do you rectify it? Is, I guess, by retroactively dropping those charges.
Yeah, and if
that's
Rwanda doesn't comply,
a suggestion we're going to make to Rwanda.
Right. And through what channels? Maybe before I get to the if they don't comply question, but through what channels are you going to use to try to make Rwanda comply with these with this decision?
Well, essentially, it's like the European Court of Human Rights. As well, in general, the European Court does not impose exactly what kind of measures a state must take in order to remedy a situation that they found to have been in violation of the European Convention of Human Rights, which, of course, it's not exactly the same, but there are similarities in words and framing. And then it is binding because these states have signed and ratified the African Charter, which is a recognition that they should respect these rights. Then there could be all sorts of ways states could respond to that. There's something Rwanda could do within a year. They can ask the African court for further clarification of the judgment. Like if they say to clarification on the interpretation, on how they could effectively give meaning to this judgment. But yes, in terms of what we can do, of course, the very first player that we should look at is Rwanda itself, and in principally, initially, it will be the government. She, of course, could go back and ask for a review of her decision in light of this African court's judgment. If none of this works, then we have a tool that we might be able to use as a lobby tool, because we have donor states, we've got the African Union, we've got the EU, and the EU has made some critical statements before about her situation in prison, and so we've got to look for states who would then take up this matter and try to convince Rwanda that they should not just ignore it.
Mm-hmm. And do you think they can ask clarification even when they decline to participate, actively participate, or send an attorney to argue?
I mean, they're not. I mean, they can. Yes, they can, because they are still bound. But the African court held that Rwanda did not have the right to withdraw. Rwanda might think differently, but this is the obligation that they themselves have freely gotten themselves into. If they will do it, that's a different matter. I mean, of course, I don't want to speculate, but the chances of them now getting involved while they haven't during the entire procedure is of course slim. These chances are slim. The chances that now, tomorrow, enthusiastically, the government will say, sure, we're going to do something drastic and let's liberate her, we all know these chances are very slim. But if we only fought cases that we are sure to win, then the lawyers would be out of a job. So we just have to we cannot give up. We have to try and do all we can to make sure that this judgment just doesn't fly away just like that.
Right. So you pretty much answered my next question, which is what you were going to do to make sure Rwanda comply with this with the court decision. But we'll come back to the substance of the case, especially in the free speech part of it. But you mentioned something about the AU or EU rather. But we are really bothered by the behavior sometimes of the EU, despite these court decisions, not just this particular case, and the non-compliance of the Rwandan government. But the Western countries continue to fund the Rwandan government, including in the areas of justice. So, do you believe that it's just the West is uninformed?
Let's be realistic, yes.
Netherlands, for instance. Do you believe that the West is uninformed about Rwanda disregard of human rights and justice, or is just turning a blind eye?
It must be the second, because over the years, there's so much information about what is going on in Rwanda, just particularly recently. And then, of course, we've seen a repetition. We've seen that history repeated itself, this time with the elections. We got another very brave, courageous lady stand up and try to challenge the president in the presidential elections. And in fact, it's very interesting how many similarities there are in what happened to her as to what happened to Victoire Ingabire. Also now, just after the elections, her entire political party, they've all been arrested. Well, at least I believe 15 of them are facing charges for forming an army against the government, which was also one of the charges that she faced back in the time. It's just they changed the name because now it is P5. It's the 5 opposition parties that formed a platform in Brussels in 2015. But apart from that, there's all this, and 8 of them are in prison and they did not get released. All these people, and Diane Rigard, she's facing very serious charges. So these people could end up in prison for many years, and I believe nobody's happy, but effectively there has been no response from Western countries. And we've got like 4 or 5 Human Rights Watch reports, the one after the other. We haven't seen that as to that extent for many years. This was and the one is about torture that's being applied in the prisons. Others are about arbitrary killings. So all of this, it's true, is pretty much ignored by Western nations. But we've got to continue to fight. We cannot give up. We have to keep on hoping that someone will listen and think, well, maybe we have to change our policy.
So
because at least those who give the money, they could put some pressure on this regime to change things.
Yes. So
yes.
You said, for instance, your country, Netherlands, and is this something beyond the court remedies? Is this something you're planning on maybe taking this decision to maybe the Foreign Affairs or the
for sure
the Department of Relations and Cooperation, and so, then say these people, they don't care about the laws, and they don't care about about courts and the decisions of the court, and maybe trying to see whether they can put some pressure, because if they keep rendering this decision and nothing happens, what do you expect Rwanda? What do you think Rwanda will continue to do?
No, most
yes.
certainly the first country I would go to is my own, the Netherlands, because,
right.
well, first, because it's my country, so it's easier, but second, Netherlands is one of the main donor states, and the whole judicial system is basically sponsored by Dutch money. And
right.
On top of that, there's been Dutch monitors during the trial, and they said most countries have been silent about the trial of Victoire Ingabire, but the Dutch have actually made statements to the effect that the trial had been fair. So, in fact, this judgment is almost equally important to use to other states than Rwanda. And also, though it would be great, and that's most certainly we will try to persuade Rwanda by our own means, but it's not likely. We have to be realistic of that possibility. So then the next step is, or maybe we do it all at the same time, I actually meant to start with a letter and include all these countries and institutions like the AU and the EU, and use it as a lobby tool. They all take human rights, they say, very seriously. And here they also have a court, as I referred to earlier, the European Court. So they can at least not simply ignore it. So yes, the simple answer is yes. I do intend to go to my own government and maybe others.
Very good. And I tell you, Caroline, it's if this is just your opinion. So if the Rwandan government didn't want to challenge the validity of, they didn't want to challenge your complaints, isn't it acceptance of guilt in itself, or even though we know what you just mentioned, when you know that you're relying heavily on the West to fund your government and your justice system, and you don't even want to challenge the validity of the complaint, to me it sounds like they accept the guilt of it, of the complaint. What they claim in the complaint were true, and they didn't find logical or any legal argument that they could present to the court. or could it be maybe because they just want to be bullies?
It could be all sorts of reasons. Obviously, I cannot look exactly in their heads as to why they took the decision they did. But what we do know is that this decision was very important to them, and I do believe whether or not I wouldn't go as far as saying they are pleading guilty by doing it, but what I do believe is that there was a genuine fear that the court would rule in favor of Victoire Ingabire. And this is something that they already anticipated and wanted to minimize the damage of a ruling like that. That is my view. At the same time, and this is very interesting, at the same time, Rwanda withdrew its initial recognition of the jurisdiction of the African court. They did send a judge. We now have a Rwandan judge who is part of the African court. And as you know, Rwanda will be the next, it will be presiding over the African Union next year. So they're playing a double role. So in any event, I think this was a strategic decision, and this was not, as they claimed, coincidence. The withdrawal and the 3 days withdrawal before we were about to plead the case.
Right. Did you just say the Rwandan judge also participated? Was among the 11?
No, not in
the court
She participated in the case in Rwanda against Victoire Ingabire. She was part of the Supreme Court, but she did not participate in the actual judgment against Victoire Ingabire. There is a rule in the African Court's rules that prohibits judges from the same nationality to sit in cases against their government. So she was not part of it, but she.
That makes sense.
And that is a bit, to me, it's a contradictory message. On the one hand, they send someone from Rwanda. On the other hand, they've gone quite far in their criticism against the African court. When they did pull out, they wrote a letter saying it was all, this court had been corrupted by Western NGOs. They looked at, there were some German NGO sponsors behind it. So they were making some very severe remarks against the African court, yet they are one of the few countries, because many African countries do not recognize the jurisdiction of the African court. They were one of the few countries, one of the first to recognize, and then pulled out, and yet sent their judge. So it's a bit unclear where Rwanda stands on this, but we will remember them. That they said also how important it is to respect these fundamental rights.
Right. So if very quick, I'm not sure that whether it was an anonymous decision or whether it was a divided decision.
It was.
It was an anonymous, 11 judges.
Yes.
I think 11 judges sit on that court.
Yes.
Oh, that was incredible.
And that's important. I thought it was very important. It was a unanimous decision.
Yes.
Yeah.
It especially shows
you can't ignore that, and it's an African court.
It's
not a European court. Whatever they say, it's an African court. And as President Kagame always says, he wants African solutions for African problems. Well, there you go. Here he has an African solution. So now he has to solve his problem.
So what do you insist on? Why do you insist on the African court? Do you think maybe because they will be a little lenient when it comes to African cases?
No, not necessarily. I think it is more powerful to go to the African court. Obviously, like in the case of Victoire Ingabire, there's two choices. You can go either to the African court or you can go to the UN. The UN has, you have the UN Commission Against Torture, and you've got the Human Rights Commission. You've got other commissions you have for disappearance, but they are very, very long procedures. They're very closed doors in some ways. I am much more I'm impressed by the African Court, I have to say. When you look at previous cases, they issue strong rulings. They've shown on a number of occasions that they have the courage to take controversially difficult decisions. And it is an African court. It's important that this wasn't an imposed judgment by some westernized court.
Yes, because there were no signs of no prejudicial aspect of it. You won't say that it may be because it's just Western courts ruling against African nations. So I understand very well what you're saying. So we talked about the violations that they caught. For instance, the free speech violations of Victoire Ingabire, and I am convinced, I am sure that you went into the details of this speech, which was the statement Victoire Ingabire made during the visit at Gisozi Memorial Site. So obviously it was just your side that argued. I think I lost her. We will be trying to reconnect, but I can't see her in the studio. For those who just joined us, we are with Caroline Buisman. She's the lawyer of Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza. On last Friday, November 24th, she won a case against the government of Rwanda. She's not in yet. She won a case against the government of Rwanda where Victoire Ingabire challenged the court because there were several violations of her rights, including free speech. We were going to ask Caroline Buisman about the free speech violations, but it looks like we don't have her in the system, in the studio. So as we continue to locate her, I ask our viewers, our listeners to be patient. I hope we will be able to again connect with her. Raditahuka ijwi ry'ihuriro nyarwanda turacyakomeza gushakisha avoka wa Madame Victoire Ingabire. Avoka wa Madame Victoire Ingabire niwe twari kumwe atubwira uko urubanza rwagenze. Twari tugezaho twamubazaga uko ibyo bavugaga ku bijyanye n'ubwisanzure cyangwa se kuvuga icyo utekereza, ubwisanzure wo kuvuga icyo utekereza mu Rwanda, aho bavuze ko u Rwanda, leta y'u Rwanda itubahirije uburenganzira bwa Madame Victoire Ingabire Umuhoza ku bijyanye n'ijambo yavugiye ku rwibutso rwa Gisozi, aho yavuze ko amaze gusura urwibutso rwa Gisozi ati hari abantu benshi barapfuye, yemera ko jenoside yakorewe abatutsi yabaye, aravuga ati ariko hari n'abahutu bapfuye muri iki gihugu cyangwa se abandi bapfuye muri iki gihugu ariko batibukwa. Avuga ko nyine nabyo ari kimwe mu byo leta y'u Rwanda igomba kuzitaho. Nitwongera kumubona rero turakomeza ikiganiro cyacu tumubaze kuri ibyo kuri icyo kibazo, uburyo bacyakiriye ndetse n'icyo bavuze leta y'u Rwanda yaba yarahonyoye ubwo burenganzira bwe. ni mu kanya rero reka dukomeze tumushake ku murongo wa telefone. Ntabwo aragaruka, ariko namara kugaruka turaza kubamenyesha. Madame Caroline Buisman, umwavoka wa Victoire Ingabire, kuba dusanze muri studio nonaha, niwe twari kumwe mu kiganiro adusobanurira by'urubanza rwabaye ejo bundi mu rukiko nyafurika rushinzwe kurengera uburenganzira bwa muntu n'uburenganzira bw'abantu muri rusange. Akaba rero tugize ikibazo cy'umurongo wa telefone, naramuka agarutse turaza kumusubiza muri studio. Turacyafite iminota 25 muri ikiganiro, ndizera ko tube twamubonye, shaka kwenda nk'umuriro umushiriyeho. Noneho dufite ikindi gice cya kabiri cy'ikiganiro, turi buze kuba turi kumwe na bagenzi bacu bo mu Bwongereza nabo ku kiganiro kindi kigufi, aho turi buze kuganira, turi buze kuvuga ku bibera mu karere, harimo ibya ziriya mpunzi Kagame ashaka kugura, ndetse akaba bamwe banze no kuzagurwa n'u Rwanda, bavuga ko ahubwo birutwa n'uko babasubiza iwabo. Reka dukomeze turebe niba dushobora kubona Madame nako umwavoka wa Ingabire Caroline Buisman. Ni mu kanya rero, nibidakunda ubwo tuzamutumira ikindi. Ntabwo turashobora kumubona, shobora kuba habaye ikibazo cya communication. Turizera neza ko ari amahoro. Reka mu kanya rero turasubira muri studio, turebe niba dushobora kumubona ku murongo wa telefone. Mube mukomeje kutwihanganira, ntabwo ari umwanya munini n'ibyanga, nk'uko nababwiye tuzongera tumusabe azagaruke, noneho akomeze ikiganiro aho yarageze. Reka dukomeze tumugerageze ku murongo wa telefone, ariko ntihashira umwanya minota 10 tutaramubona, ikiganiro turaza kugihagarika, ahasigaye tuzakomeze ubutaha. Reka tube twumva mbabarire, mbonye ntabwo turamubona. Reka rero tukomeze ikiganiro cyacu, tube twumva akaririmbo muri studio mu gihe tutaramubona. Ahasigaye nibikunda, nk'uko nababwiye, ndaza kumugarura ako kanya.
Hello?
Hello, Reggie Tahuka. Welcome back, Attorney Caroline. We lost you momentarily.
I don't know what went wrong there, but
yeah, we thought maybe you something went wrong, but I think now we can hear you. And I was trying to ask you a question about the substance. I was trying to get into the substance of the case, in particular the free speech part of it. So I know that the Rwandan government didn't try to fight the case, and so I'm not sure whether this was a judgment by default, or whether it was a full-blown hearing. Did they hear the argument, but the other side didn't argue? So I thought maybe they were just satisfied. Because they didn't have a brief of the other side, or
no,
what happened to this particular?
They did put in a response in the beginning, because this has been going on for a few years. In 2014, there was also a response from the CNLG. It's the CNLG, right? The Commission.
Commission nationale de lutte contre le génocide.
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they also issued a response, in particular in relation to the genocide minimization. So on paper, they definitely expressed their viewpoints. But it's true that in court, we were the only ones to be heard. I mean, the trial was postponed once. And obviously, we would have been happier to have Rwanda present, but they had their opportunity and they let it go. But it's not really to say it's by default. It's not like you win just because the other party is pulling out. The court really looks at the actual findings, and of course, there's all the rulings. You also have to submit all the proceedings as they were in Rwanda. So they had all this material as well.
Okay, and I know that you just didn't defend your client, but you believed that she didn't minimize the genocide against the Tutsi.
That's very correct. I believe very strongly, apart from everything else, I believe strongly in the freedom of expression. So that's one thing, and that I think the genocide ideology and the genocide minimization and denial laws are flawed. They are very vague, and they have been used to put political prisoners or political opponents in prison. That is definitely not my view only. It's been the view of many researchers, and Amnesty International has written about it, and many others. It is really a tool they've used to silence political criticism of the regime. But that's one thing, and I think her actual message is very clear. It's not one of minimizing or denying or genocide at all. In fact, she's really clearly, explicitly recognized the genocide against the Tutsi and recognized the suffering as well. But her message is that, especially for true reconciliation, as she's talking about, you need to look at the sufferings at the other side. And I think it's an important message for Rwanda's future. Justice cannot be done one-sidedly. It's a mistake also that the Rwanda tribunal made. And even there's been a huge political pressure that now we hear more and more about. The prosecutor, Carla Del Ponte, she was removed from her post when she was actually wanting to investigate crimes on the other side. and she was
Right.
removed from her post. So it's been a one-sided justice, and that gives a lot of frustration, of course, to the other side. But it's not at all to minimize what has happened to the Tutsi population in 1994. And in fact, she will be the first to stress that, and she has in many speeches. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that is part of the problem the Rwandan government has with you, because you also you can't go back to Rwanda. Is that right?
Well, I mean, they haven't clearly expressed that. I think it's wise not to, and I haven't tried. I'm not sure I would get a visa.
Right.
And it's I think I will wait at least for a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's correct. I also when I went the last time, I really wanted to visit Victoire Ingabire, but I've tried during the course of 9-10 days, and there was always a reason to refuse me, and then I was forced to leave. So yeah.
There wasn't any statement that you have that you made that is associated with that feeling that I have, or maybe you didn't say anything that made the Rwandan government angry at you, that makes you believe that going there isn't maybe appropriate at this time.
Well, there was the time that I came there, before I was asked to leave, I had about I think about a 4-hour interrogation.
Yes.
But apart from that, it's true that after that, when I came back, it was the same week that I was also involved in an extradition case in the Netherlands involving two Rwandan suspects of genocide facing extradition to Rwanda, and our argument was you cannot send anyone back to Rwanda because there is no, they will not have a fair trial. That was the argument. But in the course of that, I made some remarks about the politicization of genocide, how that is being used in a political way. And again, as I said, sometimes it's the same with the minimization laws. It's used as a tool to oppress the political opposition. And well, that didn't go very well. And after that, there was a statement by the Rwandan embassy, and I just think then after that there was new times and everyone repeating, and then it goes from like being shocked by underestimating the genocide commemorations to like slowly you also read like minimizing the genocide or denying the genocide. Well, that's a crime in Rwanda, as we know. And we also know that a fellow attorney in 2010, Peter Erlinder, someone who was actually known for quite a few years, he did get arrested for minimizing or genocide ideology, I believe it was. So, I think once they know who you are, it's not a safe country.
Right, and what is funny about these? This is just not a question, but it's a comment. It's not that these before it used to be against the Hutus, but nowadays some Tutsis are being charged or accused of minimizing the genocide against the Tutsis. So you are right, in my opinion, that the genocide in Rwanda is being politicized, and they use Ibuka and CNLG, for instance, what you just said. The brief that they made to the African Court of on Human and People's Rights, I don't believe that was entirely their own initiative. Do you believe that was the own initiative, or was just a push?
No, I mean for me, it's clearly the arm's length of the government. It's the mouthpiece of the government. I think anyone who has a bit of an idea of what's going on in Rwanda, I think, would agree with me. But these are powerful. The thing, and this is where genocide. And again, I really want to stress, it's terrible what happened. It is something that really was terrible in 1994, and so many people. So there's no underestimating of that. But it is a powerful tool that you can keep on using to basically distract the attention to what is going on today. And it works. It really does work, because
it has worked, but I'm not sure that it works it's going to work for a long time. But I agree that it has worked in the past. Yes.
It's a long time it has worked. I think it is a moment of change where they cannot only rely on that anymore to carry on the way they are, and especially because, as you said, a lot of the arrests now, they made a lot of, now it's really no longer a Hutu-Tutsi thing. A lot of Tutsis are being arrested. A lot of them have fled the country. This is no longer about a country that is trying to rebuild after the genocide. And so we have to give it time. This is a bit the Dutch and the European dialogue. You have to give this country time to rebuild after something that happened, because it's not to simply make sure that the Hutu genocidaire will come and attack and take over power in Rwanda. It's about something else. And now so many have fled the country, and so many are opening also their mouths. And it's very important to hear the Tutsi voice, those who have been working with the regime for so long and who really know the regime from inside out. And this has been a real important change, a mistake that I think the president made, but it's an important change, because they are the ones who can explain that there's a lot more going on in this country.
Right. There's something else that you said isn't really something that is not out there. We know what it is. It's just the attempt to maintain the power by the RPF, and in particular by President Kagame himself. So it's not like a hidden something else. It's just because he's using it to make sure that he can maintain the power as long as he likes or he wants. So it's not really, now it's obvious. Before, maybe people thought that it was the passion and he was really concerned about the genocidia, the FDLR, but it's no longer the case in the Congo. But no longer the case. It's obvious that he wants just to keep to maintain power. So I'm going to go back to the trial of Victoire Ingabire, and actually the decision itself. So what do you think? Do you believe that this may have an impact on Diane? So you mentioned Diane Rwigara, who is being charged of similar things, especially the circumstances are very similar, as you said so. Do you believe that this decision may have an impact on Diane's proceedings or her situation in general?
We firmly hope so, because it just shows that this country is accountable, and it's the same. It's true that she won't be able to go to the African court, because now that's clearly finished as a route. But surely they have to explain. They have to explain this also to the outside world. People are watching what's going on, and I surely would hope that this is a decision that, of course, we want to use in the proceedings even today of this position of Victoire Ingabire, but also very much for anyone who is in a similar position. And the most striking example is indeed Diane Rwigara. And for sure we are making that link. Maybe Rwanda is thinking, well, we don't need another criticism of another case. So we definitely hope it might have a positive outcome for Diane.
Especially especially when in the area of maybe the international, maybe foreign, the diplomacy and the foreign affairs relations with Rwanda. Maybe they will use it as a political argument or political tool. These foreign countries that say they didn't have evidence, now they do. So there is not really no reason not to push or pressure Rwanda to obey the human rights and free speech, and if they want to continue to receive the money from the West. And I think that is something
well, indeed,
that we...
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No,
go ahead, please.
No, indeed, I fully share your observations. This is exactly the point. Like the moment we're going on the international level, because people say, well, what can a court do? Yes, it's true. The court cannot impose, in a sense, they don't have an army and they cannot physically impose anything on any state. But this is true for anybody international. International law is more about diplomacy. That's where it's symbolically extremely important. And then it's a tool in the diplomatic world. And as you say, I mean, they are sponsoring this country and they can put demands. And it's time that they will. It's time that they should place demands, stronger and more stringent demands on Rwanda to respect the rights of their citizens, including people who are like facing charges, but in many areas.
That's right. And you did mention briefly about the reconciliation of the true reconciliation of Rwanda. You know that is one of the area Rwandan government says that is well equipped, and it's like no one else to have these reconciliation. Strategies, because they have eliminated the Hutus in the Tutsis, in the identity, in the IDs, but that is not enough. So obviously what Victoire Ingabire said, which is going back to her statement at the Gisozi Memorial Site, was she was referring to people who died during similar, maybe under similar circumstances, or maybe during the same period of time, during when the genocide was taking place, who are not mentioned anywhere in Rwanda, and she wanted people to start talking about it. It's not just that. Remember, there is a mapping report. There is other reports that did outline some of the allegations against the RPF, but RPF doesn't want to entertain that. And it seems like those not going to go away, especially after this, the ruling of, it doesn't mean that it legitimizes her claim, but it means that you can talk about it, and it shouldn't be a crime to talk about it. So to your point, yes, the true reconciliation may happen, but it will take time. I don't see it happening under Kagame's watch, because he's not going to allow this kind of debate to take place in Rwanda. That's just my opinion. So I think you, as a lawyer of Victoire Ingabire, if you take this decision to your country that you said you're going to do, and to the European Union, for instance, and the African Union's administration, I believe that even though we cannot predict for sure that it's going to make an impact, but there is a chance that at least they allow people to debate and to talk about it, and eventually maybe something it may happen in the future. So I know that it is almost 3 a.m. In your country. If you have something else that you want to add to this conversation, to this program, I'll let you say the last word, and we will wrap up our discussion in a few. If there is something else, because we got disconnected, and you may have something else that you wanted to discuss, I'll let you talk briefly about if there is something else you want to add to this program.
Well, I really can share all of what you said just now about reconciliation. And of course, reconciliation is a process. It just doesn't go overnight. But by suppressing the dialogue, that's not reconciliation. But even there, Rwanda has done extremely well in selling that to the world, that they were exemplary in their reconciliation process. And now there was no such difference anymore between Hutus and Tutsis. But there is a difference in the historic. Both groups have a different. There's a different root. There's a different history, and this needs to be acknowledged, and this needs to be talked about in order to gain true reconciliation. But what I have seen over the last 20 years, and that outside of Rwanda, this true reconciliation is indeed happening with the P5, the platform, bringing all together, and this is really important, and this is where people do listen to each other, and it's no longer true that the RPF doesn't want to hear it. It's actually like the current regime, but many former RPF soldiers are willing to acknowledge that crimes were committed to both sides, and it's particularly the RPF that have encouraged this debate, and that is also, it's extremely critical for true reconciliation. So I think Victoire Ingabire has been key also in trying to push forward true reconciliation, which is very important for a better future in Rwanda and a real closure of the historic roots, which of course started a long time before Kagame. So, yes, that's all I wanted to add, and I thank you very much for listening and for inviting me in your program.
Well, thank you, Attorney Caroline. I know that we have saluted Victoire Ingabire for her courageous act and be able to say what she said in Rwanda. Because we know that sooner or later that is something that is going to come out. And we also salute your courage to take on the Rwandan government, and by taking her case, because you know that, as you said, there are the lawyers that trying to challenge or to argue against the government of Rwanda have faced retaliation because Rwanda is, we believe, is a bully. The Rwandan government, RPF in particular, acts as a bully. A lot of cases, East African Court has ruled against Rwanda for almost similar things. The case against Rwanda was filed by the family of Colonel Rugigana, and Rwanda lost the case. But it seems like they just don't. I'm not sure whether it's because they don't want to listen, or they have other. They believe in something else that is more powerful than the courts. I don't know, but we know that it is not an easy job to do, to take on the government of Rwanda. So we really thank you for your courage and bringing these issues forward, because we'll continue to talk about them. And I know that this isn't over yet, and we may need your expertise sometimes in the future when you take this decision to the European Union or somewhere else, and you may we may ask you to come on the show again to let us know how things are moving forward.
No problem at all. And as we all know, it's a joint fight, it's joint effort. We have to join forces. So we all, I thank you as well, and everyone who has been so supportive. And it's only the beginning. But every little step helps, and it is moving in the right direction. Just need some patience.
Thank you so much for your time, Attorney Caroline Buisman from Netherlands. So we will be in touch soon, and good morning where you are, and we will be in touch. No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good continuation of the show.
welcome. Arakoze Caroline Buisman akaba ari waburaniraga Madame Victoire Ingabire. Urubanza rero akaba yararutsinze ejo bundi ku itariki 24 z'ukwezi kwa 11. Nk'uko mumwiyumviye ntabwo birangiriye ahangaha, ni intambwe rero ikomeye cyane kuko azakomeza no kujyana uru rubanza. Decision ntabwo igarukiye ahangaha gusa ko ngo batsinzwe, ahubwo ko hagiye kuzaba gushyira presiyo kuri guverinoma y'u Rwanda, haba mu bubanyi n'amahanga, mu butwererane. Ibyo rero natwe tukaba tuzakomeza kubibwira abanyamahanga yuko inkiko zifitiye ububasha, nk'uko yabitsindagiye ati ni inkiko za Afurika ntabwo ari iz'i Burayi, kandi Kagame akunze kwivugira ubwe ati mureke abanyafurika bakemura ibibazo byabo. Noneho batangiye koko kubikemura. Mu kiganiro cyacu rero mu kanya ndaza kongera kubigarukaho mu magambo magufi gusa. Reka tusoze ikiganiro cyo kuri uyu mugoroba dushimira cyane uyu mutegarugori waduhaye igihe cye kuza kudusobanurira iby'uru rubanza, kandi bigaragara yuko koko afite umugambi wo gukomeza guurwana, ndetse kurusha benshi mu banyarwanda basa naho batitaye ku kibazo cyacu, ariko we akaba wumva koko agifitiye na inyota nuko ikibazo gishobora gukemuka.